Okay, bye, Mr. Lobo. Adios. Sayonara, baby. Hasta la vista. See you later. Via Con Elvis. TCB. Follow that dream. Happy trails. That's it. He's finally gone. Finally. Okay, kids, the real Halloween party can begin now.
Attention, Insomniacs. Mr. Lobo must warn you that tonight's feature was used by the local poison control center to induce vomiting. Don't stay up late. It's not worth it.
Godzilla has a brain about this size. Because all you of Earth are idiots.
Flying saucers have invaded our planet. The whole world is under attack.
In a cyclonic cavalcade of electrifying horror.
Watching TV, and I'm staying up late. I'm watching TV. I'm watching TV, and I'm feeling okay. I'm watching TV.
Greetings, people of the future. On this day of your year, we decided to open up the vault and dig out another time capsule from the raw and puckered annals of our Cinema Insomnia history. We now present to you, for educational purposes only, a classic episode from our library, reconstructed with the best elements known to TV science. Enjoy. You are under my power. Look into the hypnotic eye. Time now to enter Mr. Lobo's domain. Look out! Open your mind to the possibility that they're not bad movies, just misunderstood. You're not dreaming. You're watching Cinema Insomnia. Tonight's presentation is not a newscast, and because it's not a newscast, you may believe it's actually true. But can your heart bear the shocking facts about grave-robbing astronomers? I'm Mr. Lobo, and I want to believe. The truth is out there. Well, it's out there, if you know what I mean, and I think you do. Are we not alone? I am. Are we not men? There are some who believe that we evolved from apes. But really, how silly. There's no scientific evidence to support such poppycock. It's as plain as the opposable thumb on your hand that life here began out there, far across the universe, with tribes of ancient astronauts who may have been the forefathers of the Egyptians, or the Toltecs, or the Mayans, or even the Insomniacs. They may have been the architects of the Great Pyramids, or the lost cities of Atlantis and Bedrock. Some believe that there may yet be brothers of man who, even now, fight to survive in an obscure TV series far, far away amongst the stars and co-stars. But tonight, we put concave mirrors on our shoes and stare up the dark robes of time and space herself to see if we can get a glimpse of the unwashed truth. Submitted for your approval, our spectral narrator, ROD Serling, reads the signs as we go on a road trip in search of ancient astronauts.
If ancient astronauts did land here, what effect would they have had upon early Earthmen? Perhaps they were worshipped, feared, loved. Perhaps they brought gifts, a new world of knowledge, or simply the principle of the lever. If we accept the premise that beings from another civilization visited here ages ago, then some of the mysteries of our past take on a new and startling light. The Baghdad Museum in Iraq has on display a clay vase dating back before the birth of Christ. The vase is also a 2,000-year-old battery. A small copper tube is placed in the narrow neck, and a rod made of a metal alloy is inserted in the copper tube. When filled with hydrochloric acid, it produces an electric current. The vase was, it seems, a primitive galvanic cell battery. Count Volta is credited with having invented the electric cell 2,500 years later. Was the secret of electricity revealed to man thousands of years ago? Is it possible that this planet Earth has been visited by travelers from outer space? Did they wander through the throbbing light years of the universe in search of other life and find it here?
We are not alone here in space. Every day, new planets. We are not alone here in space. Every day, new life. Every day, amazing flights. And angels in shocking spaceships. We are not alone here in space, because in space we have brothers.
Space. An endless tapestry of stars reaching toward infinity. Scattered through its vastness are 100 billion planets on which life theoretically could exist. If only 1% of that life is intelligent, there could be 1 million civilizations out there. And of that million, it is conceivable that one discovered the secrets of space travel. It is possible that ancient astronauts went in search of life beyond their own world and found it on the planet Earth. The existence of other intelligent beings in the universe intrigues the men of tomorrow's science. As we left our tracks on the moon, so too must the ancient astronauts have set theirs on the Earth. If so, where is the evidence of their presence? Where are the artifacts they have left behind? Perhaps the clues are not all buried in the past.
Gemini 7 here, Houston on your 8. Loud and clear. 7, go ahead. Bogey at 10 o'clock high. This is Houston. Say again, 7. I said we have a bogey at 10 o'clock high. Roger.
Gemini Control here again. The reference in that conversation was bogey. It was Borman who reported.
Mr. Lobo is going to get to the bottom of this ancient astronaut mystery thanks to the new Freedom of Information Act. Yes, because of the Freedom of Information Act, the government must now disclose previously classified information. It's our right as Americans to know.
What city, please?
Yes, hello, I'm a taxpayer. I'm not sure. I'm looking for Area 51.
Hold on while I look up the number.
This is incredibly easy.
Would you like to write it down, or shall I connect you direct?
Connect me, please.
That'll be a 95-cent connection charge.
1 second. 95 cents? Yeah, that's okay.
Area 51.
Is this the Area 51?
That's what I said.
Are you open to the public?
Till 6, Monday through Friday.
Really? Do you think, I could see a crashed UFO?
Yeah, I think so. We got a lot of wrecks out back. Look, we're kind of busy. Why don't you come down and check it out?
Certainly. I'm going to need the address. Let me get a pen. This is incredible. I mean, this new Freedom of Information Act is out of this world. I don't know why everyone says it's so difficult to talk to these guys. Cinema Insomnia. We'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Go ahead.
All right. You go down the highway.
Out here we entertain ourselves at home, so we got an Atari video game. There's so many different games to play. We especially like Space Invaders, zapping those little devils from outer space. It's fun, but personally I think the whole idea of creatures from outer space is a little far-fetched.
No other company offers you as many different video game cartridges as Atari.
This could be the beginning of the end for the human race. For what men first thought were meteors or the often ridiculed flying saucers are in reality the flaming vanguard of the invasion from Mars.
Looks like they're going to come out of that gully pretty soon. We'll have to rush our defenses to be ready when they do.
Guards need plenty of reinforcements.
We'll get them. Lieutenant, look!
Panic that sweeps around the globe as the great masses of mankind flee blindly in a headlong stampede of hysteria.
This is Mr. Lobo, and I'm here at Area 51. Actually, it wasn't so hard to find. It was right smack dab in the middle between Area 49 and 53. 52 is right across the street. We're actually going to go inside and look at actual UFO parts. Come with me. Excuse me. Hello, I'm a taxpayer. I'd like to know where the UFO parts are.
I think they're back over there by the bumpers.
What a coincidence. We're bumping back into our movie. Or is it a coincidence? We now return to In Search of Ancient Astronauts.
The sun in our heavens will burn for another 4 billion years. Then it will expand to a red giant. It has happened elsewhere. Many suns in the universe have died. Somewhere in space, an advanced civilization may have seen the end approaching and begun the search for a new planet that could sustain life. We have come of age in space. Our own explorations tell us it is possible that man-like creatures might have come here in their quest for a place to regenerate life. If they had come from an Earth-like planet, this Earth would have been an ideal new home, and here they might have landed. Nazca, a remote desert plain in the Peruvian Andes, may hold the key to an ancient puzzle. On January 5th, 1973, we reported the possibility that the lines and figures etched on the mysterious plain marked the site of a landing made by astronauts thousands of years ago. Since then, the strange drawings, visible only from the air, have been photographed by aerial survey, satellite, and the Skylab astronauts. The lines at Nazca, when added to the evidence of other sites around the world, indicates that the Earth may not merely have been visited by ancient astronauts. It may, in fact, have been colonized by them. There are marks that have been left by past civilizations to indicate the presence on Earth of explorers who came across the divide of space. Did those colonists inspire the legends of gods who came from the skies? Can we find the historic fact of their presence in the myths of ancient man? 100 years ago, an amateur archaeologist decided that Homer's Iliad was not myth, but history. He followed the epic account through the Aegean Sea to Asia Minor, and there he found the ruins of the lost city of Troy. What other legendary places contain evidence that converts myth to history, that supports tales of events so far beyond the range of normal human experience they have for centuries been dismissed as allegory and legend? In the last 50 years, science has developed tools to date past events and probe ancient mysteries. So we are finding that old accounts take on new meaning. In the mysterious Peruvian Andes, near a lake called Titicaca. From the shore, the outline of Titicaca has no pattern. Only when viewed from space does it take on the shape of a jaguar about to pounce. In the ancient language of the region, Titicaca means Stone of the Jaguar. Was it named by arriving space colonists? An arid mesa called the Altiplano fringes Lake Titicaca. On the barren windswept plain, the air is thin, and corn does not grow. It is a harsh environment. Yet there is reason to believe that here, long ago, a colony was established by visitors from another planet. It is possible that the first inhabitants of the Altiplano are our dim and distant ancestors.
Excuse me, now where were the UFO parts again?
UFO? I think you mean Yugo. We specialize in foreign parts.
No. UFO, unidentified flying objects, like the kind described in Project Blue Book.
You're never going to get Blue Book for a fixer-upper Yugo, no matter how many parts you buy from us.
Jettison Disneyland 1, Space Mountain Code 2, clear for takeoff.
Instrumentation?
Instrumentation, go.
Propulsion?
Go.
Facilities?
Go.
Electrical?
Go.
All personnel, clear the launch platform.
Space Mountain. It could only happen at Disneyland.
Experience it now.
How does it think? What makes it move? Why does it breathe? Questions anyone would ask about a man if they'd never seen one before. So for 5 days, a man was borrowed. The story that Travis Walton and 5 other witnesses told was so unbelievable, so unimaginable, that it has become the most famous case of UFO abduction ever reported.
Well, Area 51 turned out to be a bust, so during the commercial break, Mr. Lobo hopped on a plane and flew here to the Altiplano and the Peruvian Andes to learn the truth about space travelers who may have visited mankind in the distant past. I'm now standing here, 300 miles from the mystical drawings at Nazca, at the majestic banks of Lake Titicaca. Okay, stop it. Grow up. All right? Here we go. Here, near Lake Titicaca, we're all adults here, okay? Can we get through this? All right, I'm going to say Titicaca one more time. Can you behave yourself? Okay, tonight we go in search of ancient astronauts. Behind me is Lake Titicaca. I'm sorry. My bad. Okay, let's try it again.
The nearby sacred well of Cenote forms a perfectly round crater in the rock. It is unlikely that it could have been formed naturally or by human excavation. It does, however, resemble a crater made by the exhaust gases of a very powerful rocket engine. To the east of Cenote is the ancient Mayan city of Chichen Itza. About 600 AD, the entire Mayan population fled northward. There is no trace of war, plague, or famine to account for the move. Outstanding astronomers, Mayans calendared the year by constructing a central pyramid with 365 steps. They also developed a formula to predict eclipses without ever knowing about the revolution of the Earth, Moon, and Sun. There is no way of telling how they discovered these secrets, but von Daniken believes that some ancient astronaut may have told them of the solar system in which they lived. A stone relief portrays a god in a helmet with projections resembling antennae. The Mayans name their patron Kukulkan. In every 6,000 years, the Mayan calendar is off by only one day. Such was the gift of Kukulkan. Kukulkan sun supposedly came from the stars and returned to them, leaving the Mayans to build observatories to search the heavens for him. Of all the mysteries at Tiwanaku, none loom quite as large as a monolithic archway called the Gate of the Sun. Cut from a single block of andesite, it weighs at least 10 tons. Beyond the twin questions of how it got here and how it was cut by people who did not possess metal tools, is the mystery of the strange creatures that run across its face. For the carefully chiseled lines depict birds that never flew in the skies above the earth. The most arresting features are the eyes, which are composed of still another creature, figures barely discernible, but nonetheless familiar to us as space-helmeted astronauts. No less mysterious are the eyes of the god atop the arch. 2 tears are deeply etched into his cheeks, and no one can say why the sun god of Tiwanaku weeps. So it stands, a brooding, mysterious ruin, atop a desolate mountain plateau 13,000 feet in the air. Was it built by those who came to make a new home of planet Earth? "300 miles away, on another plane, lie the strange lines of Nazca. Nazca may have been a landing field, a base camp from which ancient astronauts took off to explore the planet they had found. Perhaps, but the lines at Nazca, which take shape only when viewed from the air, might have another function, one directly related to space and suborbital travel. For these lines, radiating in all directions, look not unlike the route maps of a modern-day airline. Do they point the way to other outposts on the Earth? A route map for the Earth's original colonists? If followed, where will they lead? One line pointing east leads to a remarkable, unexplained artifact, 300 miles away. No one can say when the great stone of Saiwiti was carved, nor do we know what tools were used, but here it stands. Various interpretations have called it a sacrificial altar, a city plan, a map of the universe, and a model of colonial outposts on Earth, complete even to the agricultural terraces that make farming possible in the mountains. The terraces in the Peruvian Andes, for example, have been in continuous use for centuries. They reach upwards to the ruins of an ancient city, complete with temple, astronomical observatory, and a fortress to guard the crops. Did the founding colonists design these mountain stepping stones for settling the planet? Sacsayhuaman is a megalithic fortress presumably built by the Inca. The snake marks a stone so heavily magnetized it will cause a compass needle to spin wildly. Legend says the Inca kings received a special power from this stone. With it, their empire spread from the Pacific coast to the Amazon jungle, leaving a record of accomplishment wrapped in enigma.
What is the meaning of these strange markings? As we flew over the nearby plains of Nazca in the Peruvian Andes, Mr. Lobo looked down and sketched the bizarre forms that are only visible from the air. Many resemble crop circle designs and other mysterious symbols that have appeared without explanation all over the world. A cowboy frying an egg. A Tootsie Roll Pop. Elvira's neckline. Gwyneth Paltrow pregnant. Michael Moore lifting weights. 2 snakes fighting over an egg. Target now accepts MasterCard. Was this the work of ancient astronauts, or is this just more titty-caca? You decide. Cinema Insomnia will be back.
Visitors from outer space!
We come in peace to bring you terrific tasting space dust sizzling candy.
Space dust?
Wait till you experience the sizzle of galactic grape, orbiting orange, and cosmic cherry flavors.
Wow, the cherry tastes delicious! I'm sizzling grape!
Space dust sizzling candy. In your mouth, it's out of this world.
Far out!
Space Dust, available in outer space or your local store.
What is that? White House is coming out live.
My fellow Americans, this is a momentous occasion. It is profoundly moving to know there is intelligent life out there. Alien life. And our world will never feel quite the same again. Once you believe.
Martians, please come to Earth, please.
Once you rise above fear.
Annihilate! Kill! Kill!
Let's not be too rash. Then you'll be invited.
Hi there. Are you interested in the White House?
To meet with a new people.
It's so perfect that it's happening at the beginning of the new millennium.
More powerful than the might of America.
I'll tell you one thing, they ain't getting a TV.
More advanced than the brains of Britain.
Ladies and gentlemen, this could be a cultural misunderstanding.
But be prepared for a few changes to what we know and love.
You're Tom Jones, right? It ain't unusual.
As we must learn to dance.
Girls, get out!
To a new tune. Jack Nicholson. Whoa. Why can't we all just get along? Glenn Close.
Kick the crap out of them.
Pierce Brosnan.
What, in your view, are some of the things that the Martians can teach us, Professor?
Quite a lot about Mars, I expect, Natalie.
That means
Danny DeVito.
You want to conquer the world? You're gonna need lawyers, right?
And Annette Bening.
I think they've come to save us.
From director Tim Burton.
Hey, we all make mistakes, Mr. President.
Mars attacks. Not anymore. We're going to take charge of this thing.
Yes, it's black, rectangular. It's a briefcase, really. Valuables? No. There were some old films inside, but I wouldn't classify them as valuable. Could you hold on a second, please? It appears Mr. Lobo's luggage has disappeared somewhere between here and South Florida and the Bermuda Triangle. Has been a long journey, hasn't it, folks? A long, some might say boring journey. So long, in fact, that I'm going to have to ask you to take the Insomniac's oath to remind you of your duty. Please assume the position and repeat after me. I, as initiated member of the Sleepless Nights of Insomnia, do solemnly swear to watch the movie, the whole movie, and nothing but the movie, so help me Mr. Lobo. You may stand down. And now let's really put your loyalty to the test by returning to our film, In Search of Ancient Astronauts. Hello, you still there?
If a rocket had crossed the reaches of open space and brought to Earth the seeds of life, then it is possible that the seed of man also traveled here, directed by intelligence from another planet. Did the primitive Peruvians also know of these origins? If they did, it would explain why they carved fertility symbols from only one material: meteorites. For thousands of years, Neanderthal was the most advanced primate on Earth, and a logical ancestor of man. But Neanderthal suddenly disappeared 35,000 years ago, and a new presence appeared on Earth, Cro-Magnon. So different is he from Neanderthal, most scientists cannot account for his presence. They know only that suddenly these creatures began to walk the Earth. We are their descendants. But the question remains, are they descended from the stars? Just after the close of World War II in December 1945, 5 Navy fighter planes vanished without a trace, leaving a mystery that remains unanswered today. Their disappearance has been the subject of a 25-year investigation by magazine reporter Art Ford.
Well, a routine naval air patrol took off from the Fort Lauderdale Naval Air Station. 5 planes, 14 crew members, 5 different radios. After the planes were in the air a few hours, they vanished. 5 radios did not give a coherent reason why they vanished. The men were never seen again. No wreckage of the planes was ever found. There was no radio contact after they were lost. A search plane went up after them with 13 men aboard, with every bit of equipment necessary to find them. It vanished within 7 minutes. Particularly significant in the case of the missing planes was the radio transmission report that remains in the record in the archives in Washington. Lieutenant Robert F. Cox was flying out to try to find Flight 19. He said on the radio, "What is your present altitude? I will fly south to meet you." And Taylor, who commanded Flight 19, replied, "Don't come after me." He was warning his fellow flyers who were trying to rescue the plane, which they thought was lost, and he said, "They look like they're from outer space. Don't come after me."
More than 100 ships and airplanes have been lost in the Bermuda Triangle, taking with them 1,000 lives. There is no explanation for the disappearances that have taken place in clear weather and calm seas. But now we have one more question. Is this the corridor to outer space? Did the first colonists plant a homing device, a navigational aid, under these waters? A beacon for spacecraft to home in on, that somehow interferes with our own navigational devices. 35 feet underwater and 1,000 yards off the northern shore of the island of Bimini in the Caribbean, there is another wall. There's absolutely no indication of who might have built it, but the huge blocks bear a striking resemblance to the masonry of the Incas. Some scientists claim it is a natural formation and not a wall at all. But if ocean currents cut the stones in the sea bottom, did they also cut them at right angles to each other? The Bimini Wall is but one of many mysteries in the Caribbean region known as the Bermuda Triangle. Here, ships and planes vanish under circumstances that defy all logical explanation. An early Greek text spoke of an astronomical clock mounted inside the tower. But how did it work? What did it look like? No one could say until a Greek sponge diver found these clockwork gears in the sea. Scientists estimated the gears had been built about 80 BC. Moreover, they determined that these plates and dials had been part of an extremely complex piece of machinery that had in fact been mounted in the Tower of the Winds. Finally, they concluded that it was an astronomical computer used to calculate the motions of the stars and planets. A stone circle crowns Sacsayhuaman. It may have been an astronomical calendar. No one knows precisely how it was used, but alternately, sun and shadow fill the boxes that compose its rings. The Inca called this the hitching post of the sun. With it, they marked the seasons. But it also had a religious purpose. It served to tie the Inca directly with the stars from which they claimed descent. And perhaps their claim was also made for all mankind. The world is a storehouse, an archive of unexplained phenomena. Gigantic creations, in effigy of what? To appease or acclaim whom? Early stone carvers left silent records for their descendants, to tell us something, but not quite enough. Statues modeled after strange beings, statements to the scope of their awesome powers. Folk legend surrounds their origin. Strange stories of gods who appeared riding across the skies in flaming chariots of light. Whole civilizations were structured around these gods. Civilizations which at one time flourished and then mysteriously disappeared. Only stone relics survive to give mute testimony to their time. Their true history has been the cause of much scientific inquiry and romantic speculation.
This is Mr. Lobo, and I'm back here in California. I had to track down my luggage. In fact, here's my briefcase. So now we can continue our search for ancient astronauts. Now, on the way here, on the flight, I drew another one of those symbols that are only visible from the air. Now, this one looks like a caveman holding his club. Now, I must warn you, it's a little blue. So, oh, wait a second. What is that? It's a bogey, or an unidentified flying object. Plateau Barada Nicto. Over here. Hey, spaceman.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a flying saucer.
Final frontier. These are the adventures of Legoland Space. Its unending mission to explore the depths of imagination, to seek out brave new worlds of excitement, to boldly go where no child has gone before. Each set sold separately.
There's something familiar about this place. Huh. Greetings. I am Mr. Lobo, designated ambassador to the Earth and patron saint of insomniacs. Welcome to our solar system. Oh, that's nice. Lovely. You know, that's, I don't mean to be rude, but I was told never to accept gifts from strangers. I hope you understand. Oh, hey, what are you doing? I hope you're just taking my temperature.
Istanbul, the city on the Golden Horn. Here stands the Palace of Topkapi. A curious set of maps are kept here, which were found in the Orient by the Turkish Admiral Piri Reis. The oldest of these maps dates back to approximately the 1st century AD. They are most likely copies of still earlier maps. As astronauts high above Cairo, we would view the Earth in the configuration seen on the old maps. The outlines of the modern maps are the same as the pattern visible on the Piri Reis charts. Another map in the collection shows a region which is still largely unexplored, the Antarctic. The existence of Antarctica as a continent was only established in the 19th century, and it wasn't even explored until 1911 by a Norwegian, Roald Amundsen. The map dates from 1532, a time when the techniques and basic equipment were unavailable to determine longitude. The question lingers: what was the source of information? The world's first great cities might have been constructed, according to von Daniken, under the supervision of the same being who offered instruction for making the maps of Piri Reis. Teotihuacan lies on a broad, flat plain curtained by mountains in central Mexico. It was once the center of the highly advanced Aztec Empire. When the Spaniards arrived in the early 16th century, they found an established society of artisans and intellectuals. The name Teotihuacan means where the gods reside, and the city of the gods is dominated by the Pyramid of the Sun. It is 216 feet high and forms a small mountain weighing 2.5 million tons. The Aztecs worshipped the sun as the source of all life. They offered human sacrifices to the sun god atop stone pyramids marked with hieroglyphics, vague symbols relating the history of an ancient people. Archaeology seeks answers to questions about man's past by digging through what he has left behind. Here they uncovered a chain of riddles which stretches across the expanse of modern Mexico. A mile to the south is the temple of Quetzalcoatl. Legend tells us that he was a light-skinned, bearded man who came from the stars. Supposedly, he taught men law, the arts, and the cultivation of corn. The head of a great feathered serpent represents the god Quetzalcoatl. When Quetzalcoatl finished his mission on Earth, he departed to his native star, promising to come back someday. It is a pervasive part of mythology that gods fly to the stars with a pledge to return. The strain runs through all folklore. The ruins of the deserted city of Tula rest about 20 miles from Teotihuacan. It was one of the cities supposedly linked in legend to a ladder hung in the sky. Monumental sculptures stand as silent watch over the remains, guardians of an eternal mystery. They appear to be warriors, dressed alike, wearing unusual helmets. They carry some sort of box-like unit on their chests. Perhaps they are weapons or communications equipment. Unrecognizable tools or controls are clasped in their hands.
You're not dreaming. You're watching Cinema Insomnia. I'm not quite sure how I got here. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Lobo's not feeling very well. Actually, it appears that all 9 doors to Mr. Lobo's body are a little raw. It's the last time I lapsed consciousness in that neck of the woods, I tell you that. Oh, but it does appear that Mr. Lobo has made himself $20. Intermission time already? Well then, why don't you get yourself a snack while Mr. Lobo gets himself some counseling. We'll meet back here at the top of the hour. Fine. Oh.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
This is Mr. Lobo of TV's Cinema Insomnia, and I'm here with one of the biggest stars of science fiction, Richard Hatch from Battlestar Galactica, who was the character Apollo. Did you find that your enormous height made it difficult? Did they dig a trench so you could work with the other actors?
Lauren Green and I were basically the same height. We're both about 6'4". Dirk is about 5'3". Herb Jefferson is about 5'2". We had a bunch of shrimps on the show. It was very challenging for me. I mean, some people are height challenged. They were small challenged. And we thought about using apple boxes, but their ego got in the way and they refused to do that. So I had to walk around stooping all the time. Like I could stoop like this. See, I'm really good at stooping.
Right, I see that.
I'm stooping and now we look like we're both the same size.
You know, I always thought you had scoliosis. So it's good to know that you were just hunched over all the time.
No, there's a lot of moisture in space.
Were those jackets and helmets were really heavy, I thought maybe. And you were just hunched over.
So you're not kidding. Actually, those jackets were heavy and those helmets were heavy. We had to have chiropractors on the set all the time, and massage therapists in order to unfurl the spine.
And the electrician to keep the lights going.
Exactly.
Inside.
Well, you know about all those things. You must have watched the show.
I did. I was a big fan of the program. In fact, my dad watched 60
That's
minutes.
A sad statement on your life.
I know. I was a big fan of. It is.
Why don't you do something with your life? Go to school, get an education, go out in the world and become somebody.
You're right.
I mean, you've turned into a sci-fi fan. What is that? Where's that going to lead you 20 years from now? It's going to take all your money. You're going to buy toys, games, CD-ROM games. You're going to waste all that money. You're going to end up with nothing but this suit that you got, this horrible suit, by the way.
Well, you know, the requirements to host a horror movie program.
Yes. This is such a good guy. I am going to take my apple boxes away, and now you're going to see the real height. This guy is 5'6", and I'm 5'2". See, the truth is the truth.
Yes, the truth comes out.
All right, now here we are.
All right.
I do my best with this guy. I'm trying to make him look good, but nothing I'm doing is working.
Well, I'm trying to make you look good. So we're both failing.
That's impossible.
So what I was going to say is, you're a handsome guy. You're
Are you coming on to me?
No, I'm not.
You just never know where it's going to come from.
I'm a handsome guy. No, but you're a handsome guy, and you're you're a fine actor, personable.
Thank you.
I always thought of you as like a poor man's Tim Matheson. Now, is there?
Now do you think that's a compliment? I happen to think that today, I mean, on TV, you have movie stars doing TV shows. You have movie stars doing movies on TV because movies that they won't greenlight for theatrical ventures, which may not be commercial enough, they will do for TV, and that you actually have sometimes better scripts being done and better roles for actors on television as opposed to movies. And you have many movie actors who choose to do television, and there's no longer an onus on doing television. So television now is a place for everything. The very best is on television, and the very worst is on television. So,
like my show, for example.
Well, I happen to think that your show is, pretty damn. I shouldn't say pretty damn. It's pretty damn. Whatever that means.
Pretty damn.
It's pretty damn.
All right, that's what the kids are saying now.
it wasn't a dream.
There's a group that meets.
Group?
People who've seen the same sort of things you have.
Which group of aliens abducted you?
Bob, we are not victims. We are participants.
I don't recall them being human.
I've got to go! My baby's screaming!
You people, you sit there, you're in for one big surprise.
Love's a big game hunter who held a poisoned dart. I was game and you took aim and struck me through my heart. Now I'm trapped in the web of love. Trapped in the web of love. Trapped, I'm trapped. Trapped in the web of love. Love's a big witch doctor who stirred a brew for me. I took sips from your sweet lips and now I can't get free. 'Cause I'm trapped in the web of love. Trapped in the web of love. I'm just trapped. Trapped in the web of love. Like a bird in a cage, flapping his wings in a rage. I can't fly away. Clip my wings and I've got to stay. Love's a big black cobra that reared its ugly head. I got hung with honey tongue, wish that I were dead. Now I'm trapped in the web of love. Trapped in the web of love. Trapped, I'm trapped. Trapped in the web of love.
Whoever was the guy when you were 8 years old is the guy forever. And whenever you see a new horror host, that's the first thing that you think of, is whoever that guy was in that chair when you were 8 years old.
Nationally, is there a definitive first, the
first horror show host? Is it possibly approved?
If we deal with television, we have Vampira, 1954.
Is the very first.
I don't know if anybody actually predates her, but she seems to be the one who continues to hold that record. Unless someone knows of some obscure television personality who emulated some elements of a so-called horror host.
The thing about...
And the important thing about Vampira, 38, 21, 35.
C'est bon de partir n'importe où, bras dessous, en chantant des chansons. C'est si bon de se dire des mots doux, des petits riens du tout, mais qui en disent long. Every word, every sigh, every kiss, dear, leads to only one thought, and it's this, dear. It's so good, nothing else can replace just your slightest embrace. And if you only would be my own for the rest of my days, I will whisper this phrase, my darling, c'est si bon, si bon, si bon, si bon, si bon. It's so good.
Yes, sir. May I help you?
I'd like 2 of those, please.
Hot dogs? Yes, sir.
And 3 of those, and 1 of those, and 5 bars of these, and a cup of that nice hot liquid.
Coffee. Coming right up.
Oh, and 2 bags of those peculiar white puffy material.
You mean our crunchy popcorn? Shall I wrap that for you, sir?
Oh, that's all right. My saucer's just outside.
They come from miles to enjoy our intermission.
Pair of rabbit ears, pair of rabbit tail, rabbit feet. That really is where the copyright is. We have to find out a little bit about Anthony Daniels before the Golden Robot, okay? What, you actually studied law and then business management before you got into drama.
Yes, I had very worried parents who, you know, I was always sort of doing little plays and acting and things, and they kept sort of stamping on me to stop me doing it, but they didn't succeed. They succeeded in stopping me doing it for a number of years, but after a while I went home one day and said, "You're not going to like this, but I'm going to go to drama school and become an actor."
Uh-huh. And they couldn't see where the paycheck was going to come from.
Exactly, yes. My father ran a factory, you know, and they had little bags of things at the end of the day, and you don't get that as an actor.
One of your first roles was you played a 65-year-old man on the stage, so again, Anthony Daniels in makeup.
Right, yes. Mind you, I mean, with jet lag today, I could almost play it again, right? Yes, the difficulty was that halfway through that thing, I had to appear as a kind of 16-year-old, so I had to take it all off halfway through and then put it on for the end of the play. But the next play I did, I aged from 14 to 21, and then back to my own son, who was 16.
Now, in the, well, I guess it's been in the mid-70s, you were a real, what we call trooper with the Young Vic.
Oh, yes, yes.
And then a lot of BBC radio?
Yes, I started off, I won a scholarship, first of all, when I left drama school to do radio work, which is very big in England. They have a big sort of...
Is it sort of the soap opera thing, or dramas?
Oh, no, sort of proper drama. I mean, anything from full-length Shakespeare play to half-hour comedy.
Like radio used to be here.
Yes, it's a shame you don't have it. I think it'll come back, because it's a great medium.
Mm-hmm. Where along the line did this Star Wars thing happen?
Well, I suppose, sorry, I keep kicking you. It happened, I was appearing in the West End as Guildenstern, in Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Dead. And one day my agent said, go and meet George Lucas, who I said, because I didn't know about films in those days. You know, and she explained, and I didn't want to go, because she said it's part of a robot. So I said, you're mad, don't play robots. I may wear a false beard occasionally, but I wear clothes. And she persuaded me to meet George, thank goodness.
Now, this was in England?
In England, in London, yes. So I went to meet him, and, you know, you've got to like him, haven't you? It's very exciting.
I think everyone likes George Lucas.
I was warned he was very shy, and so that made me a bit nervous, because you've got to do all the work.
But after you said you read the script, what, 4 or 5 times?
5 times, didn't understand a word. I mean,
it must have been a difficult script, too.
What's a Dianoga? And the only thing I did get out of reading it 5 times was that the part that George thought I might do was wonderful. He happened to be made of metal, but he was a human being with a huge heart and soul and personality, and a very likable person.
You know, there was another Englishman many years ago, Boris Karloff, who accepted a role that a lot of people turned down, the Frankenstein monster, because after reading the script, a lot of famous people, like Bela Lugosi, turned it down because it had no speaking parts, relatively few, and the makeup, you couldn't be seen. Was this a problem with you? I mean...
No, people say, you know, in the film, why don't you take the mask off at one point? And, you know, they're crazy, they don't understand.
Well, of course we can't do that, I
No,
understand.
right, but people do say that. Now, I took the part on the complete understanding that in no way was I going to be seen. What I didn't know at the time was that the film company would be worried that to say there was a human being inside would, they felt, ruin people's interest in the character and in the film, and would stop their suspension of disbelief, if I got that the right way around. And fortunately now they've realized that people actually don't mind knowing that I'm inside, so you know, I tend to be included a little more now.
How about today now? I don't know, countless millions have seen this movie. You've probably seen this movie more than any other movie in the history of cinema. You were on the Academy Awards, where again, all over the world you were seen, and yet very few have seen you as the real Tony Daniels. Does that bother you a little bit, or?
It bothers me in some ways. One, as I said, you know, there was no secret ever made that I wasn't going to have my face in the film. That would be ridiculous.
But no one thought the film would have that kind of response.
Certainly not. But again, nobody, at least all me, thought that 3PO would become popular in the way that he has, I think. And so the whole thing is a surprise. And I've explained the attitude of the film company, which they have now realized that it isn't, in fact, necessary to keep it a secret. So I feel slightly better about that. But in the past, it has been rather like, what should we say, writing a most wonderful novel, and the publisher forgets to put your name on the outside of it. You know, everyone says, what a wonderful novel. Wonder who wrote that. There's a natural thing when you're in any kind of business, and certainly in acting, where, you know, one job leads to another, you gradually, of course, build up.
You want to be recognized, I think.
Well, it's part of the professional system, shall we say. But I don't resent it. I mean, I can't understand why it's happened.
Can you tell us a little bit about this fellow here? Now,
yes, right.
What was the most difficult thing for you to overcome?
First of all, most people think 3PO is very tall. Well, I'm 5'7", and this is a slightly smaller version. But he's about that much taller than me. See?
I see.
And
so it's a tight fit.
It was absolutely skin tight. I mean, more than skin tight. It wore in after a while. I mean, I wore in. It didn't. I kind of got smaller. But briefly, fiberglass. The feet are plastic. That's plastic. The neck is plastic. Aluminium, sheet steel. I mean, they were so heavy I couldn't lift them at one point. And rubber. And I see through these little black holes here,
so you
but I have absolute tunnel vision so that I could see like that, but I couldn't see you unless I went like that, which gets a little confusing. Also, people couldn't look me in the eye, so they would act to my forehead or my ear, and they would sort of talk to me like that, and sort of search around for my eyes, saying, "You all right, Tony?" And then they would, gradually their faces would get a bit sort of blank and go away.
So actually you probably couldn't bend down to see your Kenny Baker.
A lot of the time I can't see R2-D2, no. A lot of the time, obviously Kenny Baker wasn't there. Most of the time it's a...
How about in some of the areas it was extremely warm on the desert, must have been?
It was extremely cold on the desert.
Oh, cold?
Because if you imagine this as being practically a mirror surface.
Oh, I see.
It reflects all the heat. But the very cold air in Tunisia sort of got in there and there and there and down there. And I was shuddering with cold. And in the studio, it made up for it because I really was a bit like
then
a
you were an oven.
been boiled, yeah.
What about... how many times would you have to take it off and put it on during a shooting day?
Well, the first day I wore it all day, so it meant that I can't actually touch my face. So I was eating lunch like this, and it was like a real Tantalus situation. I couldn't actually touch my mouth. I was nearly in tears the first day because it hurt so much. After that, I said, "I'm sorry, I have to take it off at lunchtime."
I read stories that after a while, some of the crew forgot that you were a human. They didn't serve you lunch.
Absolutely. They would blow the whistle for lunch. Wham! Everybody would be over there having lunch, and I'd be sort of standing there, kind of waddling, you know. Also, you know, in the studio, I had a chair with Anthony Daniels written across the back. I mean, like in films. You know, I loved it.
Sure.
And it disappeared after a little while because I couldn't sit down. So I said, you know. Could you find the chair? And they said, well, it's really strange because that geezer Anthony Daniels never turned up, so we give his chair away. But they didn't know who I was at all.
What has this character done in the movie Star Wars for your career? Is it too early to tell, or?
Yes, it in fact has done nothing for my career at all, because most people don't associate me with it. And right now I'm appearing in Johannesburg in an American play, playing an American. Which is kind of the opposite of him.
Yes.
And that has nothing to do with Star Wars because I'm not normally associated with it.
Any thoughts about the sequel if indeed you are offered the old uniform again?
Well, I don't know what they think about 3PS. I don't know whether he will be in that sequel.
Oh, it's got to be. Got to be.
I have to ask him, I think. I don't think he was too happy filming. I think he was rather glad when it was all over.
One last question about the robots. You had a remarkable rapport with R2-D2, and they've compared it to all the great comedy teams, Abbott and Costello and Laurel and Hardy.
Very flattering.
Did you try to work out some sort of, or did it just come naturally?
Well, one thing that worries me about actors is they get a script, and you know it's really easy because all the words are written down. You can change some of them, but most of it does actually happen after you read it and read it and read it. It begins to happen by a kind of osmosis. So things happen naturally. You don't think how you should react at that moment. You react because you're playing him.
Right.
Now, R2 arrives, and the trouble was, acting with R2 was like acting with a traffic bollard, right? Because he never made a sound. He never moved properly, he never did anything right, and there was no reaction ever.
Yes.
So I was acting, as it were, with a traffic bollard, and that was slightly hard. You know, I didn't exactly go out and stand in the middle of the road and practice with the bollards, but it came down to that sort of thing. And when I saw the voice dubbed on, I was amazed, you know, because suddenly there was R2 acting away, and I loved it. Yes.
Well, on behalf of all the fans in the western states here, and particularly in Northern California, here's our little Academy Award Oscar for you.
That's very nice.
And I hope that you reconsider, or I hope that the powers that be again have Anthony Daniels in that suit again, because you did a remarkable job. And I hope that we see the real Anthony Daniels in many more screen roles, because you're a good-looking guy and a very talented actor.
Thank you very much indeed.
Okay.
Cinema Insomnia now returns you to our feature presentation. You're not dreaming, you're still watching Cinema Insomnia. I'm Mr. Lobo. Watch the skies. Keep watching the skies. When he wasn't perfecting comfortable leotards for exercise and dance, Erich von Däniken wrote a book about how centuries ago visitors from space helped advance humankind's knowledge. It was called Chariots of the Gods. They made a film about it. It was called Chariots of the Gods. We couldn't get it. But tonight, for your edification, Cinema Insomnia brings you the third best thing. The creator of The Twilight Zone, ROD Serling, takes us on a delightfully blasphemous journey exploring enigmas with attitude. In Search of Ancient Astronauts is the American TV version of Chariots of the Gods, and it's in color. Let's watch.
Writer and sociologist Eric Hoffer suggests a reason for our return to space. He wrote, "I always felt that man is a stranger on this planet, a total stranger. I always played with the fancy, maybe a contagion from outer space is the seed of man. Hence our prior occupation with heaven, with the sky, with the stars, the gods, somewhere out there in outer space. It is a kind of homing impulse. We are drawn to where we came from." In the 7th decade of the 20th century, the landscape of the moon became familiar. Man went to the moon on his first mission in search of life. With him, he had to take his own life support system. He was encased in a portable environment, susceptible to deadly radiation. If space travelers from another planet were to visit Earth, they too might find the environment hostile, if not deadly. They too would have to travel as self-contained units. But whatever their basic forms, in appearance they may have resembled modern astronauts. On a rocky ledge in the Sahara Desert is a drawing estimated to have been painted there over 15,000 years ago. If not an astronaut, then what is this floating apparition? Henri Loti, the early French archaeologist, discovered the image of the 19-foot giant and called him the great god Mars. On the African continent in the bushlands of southern Rhodesia are the ruins of Zimbabwe, meaning the heart of the lion. It is constructed of brick-shaped granite rocks, all exactly alike as if produced in a factory. 20,000 tons of identical building stones. They were laid to a height of over 30 feet to form walls which have stood for thousands of years. What masons trimmed and piled these stones with such astonishing perfection? Were they the ancestors of bushmen whose straw huts surround the ruins, or members of a visiting group of master builders? The mystery carried Van Daniken back to the Valley of the Kings in Egypt near Luxor. The valley was another royal burial ground of the pharaohs, the god kings. Not pyramids of stone, but a small mountain range converted to the use of the dead. The entrances were hidden, little more than windows into the rock, with steep stairs and winding passageways leading to the tomb of the 9-year-old pharaoh god Tutankhamun. The crypt is hollowed directly out of stone, and incredibly intricate murals decorate the walls and ceilings. Archaeologists have carefully studied the markings and meanings, but Van Daniken points out one interesting fact. They could not have been painted by firelight. The ceilings show no trace of soot, and so no torches or oil lamps were used. What then was the light source? Markings found in this and other tombs are portraits of the god Osiris. Osiris played an important role in Egyptian religious belief. After giving knowledge to the world, he left the earth and exists in the heavens. Each dead pharaoh, the kings of earth, joined the spirit of Osiris in the heavens. Their mummified remains were prepared for the journey. In the golden armor casing, whom were they imitating? Outside the cave crypt stand the remains of the ancient mortuary, the temple of Amenhotep III. Here the Egyptian priests preserve the remains of their rulers. We will never know the origins of the science of mummification. Perhaps it was an imitation of a physical conservation method used by extraterrestrial visitors. The secrets died along with the mortuary during the great earthquake in the year 27 BC. Some distance away, guarding the entrance to this temple of the dead, rests the Memnon Colossi, 2,000 years old, 52 feet high, each weighing over 1,000 tons. It is difficult for us to imagine them being moved from the distant quarries by manpower alone. And so the sentinels of the temple evoke images of a time when the activity inside was directed by godlike visitors who came as masters to Earth.
Cinema Insomnia will be back with more Zik Brazarbnock. Wait a second. This isn't my black void. Still aboard the spaceship. Got to get out of here.
Every spaceman knows you just gotta have Hostess Twinkies along. Even space girls know it. You get a big delight in every bite. Delicious Hostess cream-filled Twinkies taste out of this world. With luscious, creamy white filling inside, soft golden sponge cake outside. You get a big delight in every bite. Yep, smart spacemen always have plenty of good tasting Twinkies along, wherever they go. Hostess Twinkies.
Well, we're all out of orange-flavored Tang.
Golly, the grape flavor's gone too.
Listen, why don't I go to the Earth and get some more?
Yeah?
I could trade them some rocks.
Rocks? For an instant breakfast drink with more vitamin C than orange juice?
Sure. I'll be right back.
What is vitamin C anyway?
Well, I'm back.
He got both orange and grape flavored Tang.
For a bag of rocks.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I wonder if there's intelligent life on that planet.
Mr. Lobo is here in the former center of the Aztec Empire. These ruins were actually once part of a huge device that was used to measure time. It was a gift to the Aztecs by the bird-like god Kukulkan. So this is where the world's first cuckoo clock was made, and not Switzerland after all. And if you believe that, boy, does Mr. Lobo have the movie for you. It's called In Search of Ancient Astronauts. Or is it?
Guarding the headwaters of the Amazon River are the ruins of Machu Picchu, an outpost of Peruvian Inca society. Some archaeologists suggest that the Incas found they could not extend their empire into the treacherous Amazon jungle. And so, here they stopped, and here they died. There is a curious folk legend surrounding the origin of this fortress. It is said to have been built by a divine race of light-skinned, auburn-haired descendants of the god Viracochus, who arrived in a flaming chariot. Nothing remains of these supposed people, but the legend goes on to say that they abandoned their citadel and returned to the skies. They left only the ruins of their mountaintop city for us to wonder at. In the 20th century, we accept the existence of spacecraft. What event could possibly have inspired this 14,000-year-old drawing of a spaceship landing on the Earth? On a rocky plain in the Andes called Toro Muerto, hundreds of petroglyphs depict the same scene. Are ancient figures with spacesuit-like costumes the record of beings actually encountered? And where did the Indians of Colombia find models for these golden helmeted figures sculpted more than 1,000 years ago? The same people molded these golden objects, which look startlingly like a modern delta-wing jet fighter plane. Could flight have played a role in the construction of this rocky fortress in Peru? Called Ollantaytambo, it spans a pass through the mountains that link the jungle with the sea. The Inca builders were accomplished stonemasons who built a chain of fortresses across the Andes. Nowhere is there an explanation for the technology used to carry enormous pink slabs, each one more than 60 tons, from this mountain where they were quarried, across the river and valley, and then 10,000 feet up the face of Ollantaytambo. Could it be explained by a force known in ancient India as Sidley? Cuzco, once the capital of the Inca Empire, is a mixture of Spanish and Inca architecture. The walls of this street contain a stone that has 12 angles cut within it. So tightly do the stones fit that no mortar was ever used to join them together, and not even a knife blade can be slipped between the joints. The wall once formed a part of an Inca temple of the sun. The Spanish conquistadors used the walls built by the Inca as the foundation of a church. In 1950, an earthquake shattered Cuzco, virtually destroying the church. Today, the people of Cuzco are still rebuilding the church atop the ancient earthquake-proof structure. The original walls, however, remain standing. Again, the question arises, did the Inca receive this building technology from the original colonists? The strangely knotted strings are called quipu. No one today can read them. But when the Spaniards first came to Peru, the Inca kings would call upon their rememberers who would consult the quipu and account for every kernel of corn and man, woman, and child in the empire. But the quipu were more than a numerical accounting system, for with it an accomplished rememberer could call forth epic poems, historic dates, and events. So sophisticated was the quipu, however, that some investigators believe it was the Inca version of a computer punch card. An enormous crystal was placed in a Mochica grave more than 1,500 years ago. It is among the hardest of all minerals, yet it was cut, polished, and shaped by a technology that theoretically could not have existed at that time. Other hands carved this skull. The British Museum calls it 15th century Aztec. But why would the Aztecs, who never created naturalistic art, suddenly render in crystal a skull? The bead is turquoise, another extremely hard gemstone. It is 1,700 years old and was probably part of a necklace or bracelet. The hole in each bead has a diameter of 0.19 millimeters. Even today, we can barely drill holes that small. The ibis is native to Egypt, but it was carved into an ancient stone printing roller found on the Pacific coast of South America, 8,000 miles from Egypt.
Now it's time for another Insomniac mail sack. Max from Salisbury writes in, Dear Mr. Lobo, how do I keep hostile aliens from beaming microwaves into my brain? Well, Max, I'm glad you asked. First, you take a large piece of aluminum foil from your mother's cupboard, and you quite simply wrap it around your head like so. Now, because aliens are intelligent beings, they'll know you're not supposed to microwave aluminum foil. And secondly, it's well known that aliens are allergic to chocolate, and the Hershey Kiss shape should deter them also.
Who will be next to launch man in space?
Me!
And so can you with Deluxe Man in Space set. You get a rocket launcher, defense base, and 3 different nose cones. Up goes the astronaut to the top of the launcher. The gantry moves in. The space capsule is locked on the mighty Atlas rocket. Blast off! There he goes! Man in space! Enemy bombers approaching. Flash the alert. Open fire!
Deluxe Man in Space, complete with missile base. With astronaut and satellite, you send them into flight. 3, 2, 1, fire! Deluxe Man in Space.
Wow, what a toy! Deluxe Man in Space is sold only at food markets.
This is Mr. Lobo, and I'm here in Cairo, Egypt, the cradle o' civilization, where I have deciphered the riddle of the Sphinx. If athletes get athlete's foot, what do ancient astronauts get? Mistletoe. I don't get it, but perhaps it'll make more sense after viewing the next reel of In Search of Ancient Astronauts.
If we were to land on a strange planet, we would probably avoid its magnetically disruptive poles. If travelers from outer space were to land here, a likely location, almost on the equator, would be Egypt. The pyramids, eternal mysteries in themselves, provide additional evidence to support the premise that Earth was visited by ancient astronauts. The Great Pyramid rises to a height of 477 feet. 2,300,000 stone blocks, each a crushing 2.5 tons, each perfectly fitting, climbed toward the sky. The stones were transported from the Makadam Mountains on the far side of the Nile. 20,000 workmen, hauling 10 blocks a day, would need 640 years, more than 30 generations, to build one pyramid. To some, the massive structures were not designed as tombs for the pharaohs, but are in reality vast astronomical calculators. Passageways, for example, from the interior, point directly at the North Star, the way back to the heavens. If we multiply the height of the pyramid by 1 billion, it equals almost exactly the distance from the Earth to the Sun. At the end of the 16th century, the Dutch mathematician Ludolf arrived at the figure pi, by which one can determine the circumference of a circle. If we divide the perimeter of the base of the pyramid by twice the height, we get exactly the figure pi, which Ludolf only found 4,000 years later. All the evidence leads von Däniken to conclude that the pyramid is linked to the arrival of visitors from outer space, and that they may have used it as a marking place, a map reference for navigation. When modern Egypt chose to construct the Aswan Dam, there stood one obstacle. The flooding would submerge the 3,000-year-old temple of Abu Simbel. Over 100 nations answered UNESCO's plea to save the monument. Latest equipment and engineering techniques were used. Still, it took 3 years to accomplish. Because centuries were needed for the original builders to create the temples, it is probable they honor no single pharaoh. They stand, however, in tribute to the gods of the sun, the center of Egyptian religions, and to those who return from earth to the skies. The Salisbury Plain lies along the Wales border. A large mound rises ominously from the level expanse. The legends surrounding it suggest that it was a place of burial, not unlike the pyramids of Egypt. Close by stands Stonehenge, rock formations strewn about like so many toy blocks. It is believed to have been built 2,000 years ago. According to legend, Merlin, the magician of King Arthur's court, transported the huge slabs by magical incantations from what is now Scotland. Recent studies have employed computers to measure the distances and placements of the stones. These findings prove to some extent that Stonehenge served as a giant calendar and observatory. By visually lining up specific points, an almost exact calculation can be made as to the movement of the stars and planets. Even with computers, it has taken us years to arrive at these figures. 2,000 years ago, this area of England was inhabited only by primitive tribal people. Some still believe that Stonehenge is a temple built by the ancient Druids, the priests of the pagan Celts, and was the site of witches' conclaves and human sacrifice. The Druids still exist and continue to conduct their religious services on this site. It has been suggested that the Druids may not have built this place, but simply taken it over as their shrine. If so, then there is no trace of who might have built and left it behind. Tribes that vanished, whole civilizations that disappeared. It has happened too many times to be coincidence.
What's the matter, little fella? Why so gloomy? I thought you liked science fiction. I know, but we already spent our film budget for the year. Here you go. Cinema Insomnia will be back with more of the poor man's Chariots of the Gods, in search of ancient astronauts. This is Mr. Lobo, and I'm here on Easter Island. And so far I haven't even found one of those strange, colorful eggs that have made this place so famous. I hope ROD Serling is having better luck in tonight's film, In Search of Ancient Astronauts.
Secrets in stone abound throughout the world. Easter Island, Isle of 1,000 mysteries. Minute, lost in the watery expanse of the South Pacific, 3,000 miles off the coast of Chile. The inhabitants call their island Mata Tirani, which means eyes looking up to heaven. The neighboring atoll is called the Island of the Bird People, creatures with human bodies and the heads of birds. Von Daniken suggests that these bird heads could also be helmets equipped with a type of mask. The island's ancient legends tell of flying people who arrived amidst fire and thundering noise. The landscape is dominated by volcanic cratered lakes. Today, about 2,000 people live here. There were never more than 4,000 natives at any time. Of the total population, 70% were women, children, or the elderly. The majority of able-bodied men was needed for the production of food. Thus, the number of workmen was so small that it would have been impossible for them to create the more than 600 gigantic stone figures found everywhere on the island. Many of the stone gods stand 65 feet high and weigh nearly 400 tons. Most of the sculptures are but partly exposed. Only excavation reveals their true size. The figures are all the same, an unusual type of human wearing the same haughty, taciturn expression. One statue, unearthed by explorer Thor Heyerdahl, suggests man's role. Unlike the others, it has a rounded head and is kneeling. The workshop at the volcanic crater, Ranoraraku, has stone so hard that repeated hammering with a stone chisel hardly scratches it. The colossi carved here were removed to distances as much as 12 miles from this location. There was no army of slaves for labor, no wood for rollers, nor the slightest traces to suggest that the sculptures were dragged across the island. And so they lie here, mute, eyes looking up to heaven. Easter Island might have been the key to many mysteries. When it was first discovered, a group of wooden tablets covered with hieroglyphics were found. But zealous missionaries burned them, sealing the secrets of the monoliths. So we must look elsewhere for explanations. The legends of Easter Island claim that the stone giants moved themselves with the help of mana, a mysterious force which only 2 priests could invoke, and that one day the priest disappeared, and so did the mana. What was mana? Von Daniken wondered if there were strangers from other planets possessed of extraordinary powers. Did they have the ability to defy the laws of gravity? To this day, Easter Island exerts an unusually strong magnetism. The report of a French expedition in 1964 ends as follows. Since there are inexplicable magnetic forces and unusual geological phenomena on Easter Island, one cannot exclude the possibility of extraterrestrial contacts.
why don't you run down to the corner store and stock up on your Sidley and Manna, while Cinema Insomnia takes a much-deserved break from tonight's rockumentary In Search of Ancient Astronauts.
Introducing the G.I. Joe Space-O-Matic. Space-O-Matic, the futuristic space vehicle you program yourself to make it go where you want, do what you want. Program it to lift, or to scoop, or use the magnetic pickup.
What's this? Way to go, Joe.
G.I. Joe Space-O-Matic from Hasbro.
Hey there, pretty girl. I'm almost home.
Well, hurry up, because that thing came.
Turn on your heart light.
Elliot, are you there?
Let it shine.
Elliot, sweetie?
Must save Earth. They've returned from 3 million light years away. Only this time, they've come to stay.
Oh my God.
25 years I've been going out to fight these alien bastards. Nothing leaves alive. They're up to their old tricks. They project what they think we want to see. But I've had a look at the real thing, and believe me, Papa, you wouldn't want it marrying your sister.
Ouch.
Freeze! Stay in the car! Watch his finger! Watch his finger!
Life will go on. We will prevail.
Come on, E.T. Let's go save the world! Woohoo!
And why would a seemingly ordinary building like this one have lights running along the roof? No human being would arrange lights like that. Could it possibly be some sort of landing strip? Cinema Insomnia now returns to In Search of Ancient Astronauts.
From a great height, from an aircraft, for instance, the lines fall into focus. We see a spider, an eagle, a peacock, and a hummingbird, none of which can be recognized from the ground. And there is no observation point, no mountain nearby overlooking the plain. The giant drawings must have been directed by someone hovering high above. Straight as arrows, one huge geometric puzzle. Some lines parallel, some intersecting, starting nowhere and ending nowhere. The conclusion reached by von Daniken is that the lines represent a landing field. The plain of Nazca is a gigantic abandoned airport. Landing strips, roads, and flattened beds that resemble rocket launch ramps were cut into the plateau. In a radius of 1,000 miles, enduring archaeological mysteries abound. And the question arises, was this the center, the base camp of an ancient astronaut colony? Around the world, we have seen carvings in Japan, Egypt, Australia, Yugoslavia, and all bear a striking resemblance to the carvings at Nazca. Was Earth visited by creatures, astronauts from another planet? We have only fragments, but look up into the sky some clear starlit night and allow yourself the freedom to wonder. The mysteries of the past manifest themselves on all continents. Within the depths of a temple in the ancient Mayan city of Palenque in Central America, von Daniken came upon a stone relief of what is apparently a man seated in a capsule, watching something intently. His hand seemed to be operating some undefinable controls. His foot pressing a lever. And at the rear of the capsule are jets trailing flames behind them. He seems to be dressed for the job, in trousers with a broad belt, a sort of jacket, tight-fitting at the wrists. The chair is well upholstered to absorb the shock of acceleration. Mayan legend says that he represents their space-traveling god, Kukulkan, the winged god of Palenque. He was carved sometime in the 7th century. The possibility haunts us that this figure was the artist's rendering of the ancient astronauts who inspired the Mayan culture. The church of the monastery of Desanay was decorated with mysterious frescoes some 500 years ago. The monastery is hidden away in the peaceful countryside of southern Yugoslavia. High above the chapel, almost out of sight, the fresco silently challenges our minds with its startling story. It depicts what may have been the first air battle to be witnessed by man, almost 500 years before the known discovery of flight. In the first capsule, a man is seated with his hand on some form of guidance mechanism. He appears to be racing across the sky in an attempt to escape from a pursuing ship. We can easily imagine jets at the rear of these aerodynamic forms. On the earth below them, people cower in fear as this air battle wages in the skies. If not an astronaut, then what reality might have inspired the frescoes of Desanay? Myths, legends, legacies of ancient man have not all been lost in ambiguous reference. History is the scribe of man. There are records in cuneiform, Sanskrit, Amharic, Tibetan, and languages which have not yet even been deciphered. New texts are constantly being discovered. Some, like the Dead Sea Scrolls, are readily understandable to scholars. Translating other fragments of written history is laborious and time-consuming. Only a minute fraction of surviving texts have actually been transcribed.
The locals here still carry on these strange traditions, the strange symbols of the past. What do you think these lights represent? Stars? I see some sort of a glowing pyramid with some sort of transport going around it. And up on the roof there, is that some sort of flaming chariot? A chariot of the gods? Cinema Insomnia will be back after this message.
Santa sets up a fantastic automatic toy factory on Mars. The Martian leader battles the wicked Voldar in a desperate effort to save Santa, the wise man of Mars. 900 years old. The Battle of the Toys, when Martian kids and Earth kids join Santa to battle the bad guys of Mars. For real space-age fun, you'll be out of this world when Santa Claus conquers the Martians.
Clanky, Clanky! Here comes Clanky, the chocolate spaceman toy. Chocolate spaceman toy. We love Clanky, Clanky the spaceman. He can do a lot of things nobody else can. We just squeeze him, and he makes our milk all chocolatey, chocolatey. We love Clanky, Clanky the spaceman. He can make a sundae like nobody else can. We just squeeze him, and he makes ice cream all chocolatey, chocolatey. Clanky, Clanky is good to you and me. He can make anything chocolatey. Clanky is very clever.
If you're just waking up, you're watching Cinema Insomnia. I feel we're close. So very, very close. Look, again, that figure, the fair-skinned man with a beard, wearing a bulky uniform. And that pack on his back must be some sort of life support system. Could this be the ancient astronaut that gifted our ancestors with tools and technology all those years ago? Or maybe they just want us to think that he did. Maybe I'm not even talking to you now. Maybe you fell asleep 20 minutes ago and you're just dreaming I'm saying all this. Or perhaps not. Anyway, we now conclude with the inconclusive conclusion to our film, In Search of Ancient Astronauts.
Light years from our sun, in the constellation of Boötes, there is a red giant called Epsilon. It is circled by a planet that may once have supported life. Some scientists believe that a space probe was sent from that planet toward the Earth. They believe the probe received these signals in 1927. They were the first radio signals sent from Earth into space. These echoes have a different delay pattern. There is no natural explanation for the difference. What happened here, on this windy plain, halfway between the sea and the sky? The only witness is a mute stone god who looks out at the ruins of a once great civilization and weeps. It has been estimated there exist 50,000 civilizations more advanced than the one we know. If only one of those civilizations saw its sun dying, it could have seeded the Earth. Someday, somewhere in the galaxies, we may encounter life that is remarkably similar to ourselves, and we will be able to confirm that the faint traces of ancient mysteries are the imprints of our ancestors from space. All around the globe, giant radio telescopes are scanning the stars for signals. Some are even sending signals, not to anyone in particular, but to anyone who may be able to hear them. By some incredible coincidence, perhaps we will establish a dialogue with an extraterrestrial community, even if that conversation is only a matter of meaningless blips and dots. NASA recently launched an aluminum greeting card into space, addressed in effect to whom it may concern. Etched on the plaque are the nude figures of a man and a woman, 2-digit computer code numbers, and a diagram showing Earth's location within the 9 planets of our solar system. A message to whatever intelligent life there may be in the universe. Hello from Earth to some wandering ancient astronaut. Man has been in space since 1957. When the Russians first orbited a grapefruit-sized satellite called Sputnik. Since then, men have walked upon the moon and lived in laboratories that orbit the space between the Earth and the moon. Soon we shall reach out to the other planets of our solar system, and then to the stars. But even before men ever dreamed of space travel, they reported on visitors from space. And to this moment, the reports continue. Are the most recent UFO sightings evidence of continued alien interest in the Earth? Is someone in space still watching the descendants of a colony sent to Earth thousands of years ago?
Puzzling. Oh, the film ends there, but we know the truth, don't we? It was actually Santa Claus delivering goodies to the Mayans, Toltecs, and Incas all those years ago in his fiery red Chariot of the Gods. My thanks, or rather apologies, to NASA, the South Florida Science Museum, and of course the boys at Project UFO. I hope you dug this week's episode. Live long and prosper, and thank you for watching Cinema Insomnia. Truth's getting a little thick over here.